ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Miller Lite with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
From Bears training camp at the campus of Halas, this is Bears Etc. Episode 78. On the first full week of training camp, it's getting underway. Jeff Joniak here with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer and our special guest this week, third-year general manager Ryan Poles, who has completely overhauled this roster since his arrival prior to the 2022 season. And the moves made has set the franchise up for what everybody hopes is a new floor of success. And now comes the hard work, Tommy, of rolling up the sleeves and working towards winning a Super Bowl. We're brought to you by Miller Lite. How you feeling?
I feel good. I hope every day progresses along throughout training camp as well as it has within the first 4 or 5 days. And it's easy to point the fingers to Caleb Williams and to see how he does, but there's a lot of other moving parts that are going to play a significant role in the overall Ryan Poles success of this football team. So I'm excited to see these guys when they finally put on full pads, because that does a lot to the game of football. It condenses the size of the area that you work in. It increases the aggression of the game. It changes the sight lines for a lot of different offensive football players. And then it puts a lot more into the battle on the offense and defensive line. So I'm excited to see that part of this team.
That's the part. That's the scrimmage part. You know, the line of scrimmage, that's where it's at. There's no real evaluation other than how people are looking on the hoof. That's when we're going to find out. That's what you hear from coaches. That's what you've always taught us. This is when it begins. And I hope, and there's not every day is going to be pads, obviously. Hopefully there's some back-to-back pads, but that's the NFL in 2024, I guess.
Whatever the case is, you better be ready for week 1 of the regular season. Yeah. Whether you wear pads that often in training camp or not, I think the mentality that you build and what you do when you have pads on, it's really got to be beneficial to the big picture, which is the Tennessee Titans at noon, week 1 of the regular season.
Tom, you've done a great job on these podcasts. We've had some entertaining conversations. Now we're back to 2-a-days, or 2 a week, I should say, 2 a week. As we start this
I've been holding back a lot of information with us only once a week stuff. I'm ready for twice a week.
Tastes like Miller time. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right, so some of your observations as we've gone through a few practices, and this is airing on Tuesday of this week. The good news about all that, Tommy, there's no significant injuries. Karan Amagaji is on PUP for the moment as he works his way back from a quad tear last October, and that's really the most significant injury, knock on wood, so far.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I'd like to see Amagaji where Chris Morgan, the offensive line coach, run game coordinator, would decide the position that best fits his skills. And I'm still excited to see that because I think he can play anywhere up and down the line of scrimmage. And we'll see when he finally gets the experiment of day-to-day play. It's kind of something what I've seen so far out of training camp. One thing that catches my mind is Bears running backs catching the football is going to be equally as important as their running the football. And whether it's screen, it's short passes, and Caleb Williams does a lot more check down to the running back than his predecessor. So I think when you make the determination of what running back skills fit this offense the best, their pass catching ability is going to determine a lot to do with how they fit into this scheme. When I go to the defensive line of scrimmage, how is Javon Dexter Sr. going to use his length? It's either going to be a detriment or it's going to be an asset. Does he have the ability to have the explosiveness to have penetration against the offensive lineman that gets him closer to the quarterback, that he is able to use his length as an interference to the passing lanes? I think it was yesterday in practice, he tipped the ball at the line of scrimmage. Caleb ended up catching it himself and then running around the right side. So Javon Dexter is going to have to find himself and find out how his ability works best on the inside. He's got versatility, but we need to see how it's going to go. And then I really like the tempo of the defense. They're playing fast. They're playing physical. They have a lot of emotion on their side. They're not taking it easy on anybody, and I think that's really going to benefit the receivers, the offensive line, and Caleb Williams as much as anybody.
All right, let's take those in three parts. We'll start with the pass catching of the backs. I mean, we talked about it on the Bears Weekly show often. DeAndre Swift is one of the top 5 receiving backs in the NFL since 2021. So it shouldn't stop here. And then you got Roschon Johnson. He's a good pass catcher. He hits the rails and go. Khalil Herbert has been kind of criticized at times, but I feel he is a good pass catcher, and he is a breakaway threat with a little bit of a bulldozer in him when he gets ahead of steam. And Kyrie Blasingame, who has definitely pass-catching ability as well on those wheel routes we always hope for and wish for.
Well, you know, Kari caught a pass yesterday in practice down the left sideline. He was able to convert it into yards. I want to see him increase his opportunities. It's just like last year, Khalil Herbert. He was 20 of 31 because when you look at Roschon Johnson, he caught 26 of his 29 opportunities. Right. And DeAndre Swift caught 39 of his 49. So you got to see where, you know, can Khalil Herbert pick up those 11? Whether it's a difficult pass, a difficult catch, because I think of when I look at the early stages of a Shane Waldron offense, the passes that running backs catch are not always easy. It's a last-second decision. That's a check-down route over the middle. It's a difficult bubble screen to the right or to the extreme left. Or it's a check down route out of the backfield, and a lot of times they're in motion. So it's not like I'm saying, oh, this is easily done. It's just what I see out of this offense, as much as the running game has been a big part of this offense the last 3 years, to me in the early stages, I think the running backs have to be as good as catching the passes as they are as carrying handoffs or blocking when that's their responsibility. So we'll see how that develops, and it'll be different when full pads are on. Because when you have a guy that's approaching you, a linebacker, a defensive back, safety, even a defensive lineman for that matter, you got to make sure that you maintain that focus, control the football, and what can you get out of it after you make a catch.
All right, part 2, you brought up just the length and the size and how it impacts things for Javon Dexter Sr. There's a fight on who developed their body the best. Dominique Robinson looks like he's a monster, and so does Javon Dexter Sr. Walked by him in the lunchroom the other day. Wow, he's packed on some muscle, Tommy. And yes, he's getting his hands up in the air. He's getting and downfield. When the play gets past the line of scrimmage, he's tracking down people. He is running and putting that full effort that Matt Eberflus talks about constantly.
Well, as you talk about it, he's got all the assets you need. He's got determination to run downfield. He's got the willingness to go into a weight room and add more to his body that should be expected out of him for at least the next 3 or 4 years of his career. When you can gain strength, you can gain muscle, and muscle leads to confidence. But the thing about it, it's the game itself. At the snap of the ball and it's a run, does he immediately read it, and is he able to gain that length advantage against the offensive lineman he's playing against and play in a position that is detrimental to the run play that's trying to be run against him? Then on the same accord, if it's second down and long, third and long, and he recognizes the pass, is he able to get penetration where if he does get blocked, he can raise his hands up in the air and take out an entire middle throwing lane? And maybe you can read the face of the quarterback well enough, like he did in practice yesterday, to tip the ball out of the air. And maybe that creates a turnover for your defense. Javon Dexter has got a lot of assets. It's just more of getting the reps, working with Coach Smith, Travis Smith, and being able to convert your God-given ability into results on the defensive line. And, listen, I'm paying attention to a lot of defensive players. However, Javon just seems to stick out because he's got such a big role in the overall picture of success to Montez Sweat, to the overall performance of this defense.
Yeah, I sure do like seeing them line up next to each other, because I can think of a lot of different twists and stunts that you can do with those guys, or free up somebody coming from the corner out the edge, hiding behind that size.
This defensive line is very expandable.
Yeah.
Because as what you're basically saying, and not to take words out of your mouth, but the way that the athleticism can move these guys up and down the line of scrimmage, and they can go from a 3 technique, which is on the offensive guard, to a 5 technique or a 7 technique. It has more to do with the offensive tackle. And even a guy like Demarcus Walker played a little bit on the inside today. He's very expandable as well.
Yeah, and just what I was trying to finish saying was, you get a blitzing corner on a nickel blitz or whatever. The size differential when you got Montez Sweat and Dexter on a side, quarterback may not see that little guy sneaking by.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Point.
PNC is a sponsor of the Bears Etc. podcast, official bank of the Chicago Bears. The last thing you talked about was the energy and the functionality of the defense in general. They're playing fast. They're playing spirited. We would expect nothing less. I know a lot of analysts and writers that have observed the early days of practice. They keep writing their synopsises of the day, defense ahead of the offense. And that's a common theme for training camps, early days, no pads. But yeah, they're playing fast, and by all rights, they should be. This is the year 3 of the system. Some of these guys have been here for all 3 years under Matt Eberflus. You've got a new defensive coordinator who is charting practice and making the calls and setting up the practice during this portion. Matt is expected to call the plays during the season. But yeah, they are a group with 9 returning starters. It should be playing fast right now.
I'm really excited for Eric Washington, the defensive coordinator, because I think he's the type of guy that can go into a meeting room and not only explain the expectations of each position defensively, but he can go out there and maybe take that role of Matt and be the teacher that Matt can emphasize when they're on the practice field. And so I'm excited for what this defense has been able to bring. And they play fast. They're super confident, and you have guys like Tyreek Stevenson who's gaining confidence, maybe something he didn't start with at the beginning of the season last year, but he sure ended it with it, and he's picking up where he left off. And I think that says a lot for this team. I see Brisker yesterday. He breaks on a deep route laterally to DJ Moore off to his left. And he read the play so quickly, he was in his position to help the cornerback on this long route that he was able to tap it away before it got into the hands of the receiver. So who am I cheering for here? Am I cheering for the defense or am I cheering for the offense? But to me, it was just the initial read of Jaquan Brisker that was so impressive, and the amount of distance he covered to go and help it. And then to me, Jeff, how does it factor to the offensive side of the ball? Because when we talk about Caleb Williams, we talk about his arm talent and the different ways that he can throw the football. The thing that's impressed me about Caleb since he's come aboard to the Bears in early stages of training camp is his eye talent. Mm-hmm. And you know how many times that you and I have watched plays over however many years that we've been around, and sometimes you become frustrated with a quarterback that he's not going from his second and third, and even if a play breaks down, where can I go with the football? That's super encouraging to me out of Caleb, is that he has impressive arm talent, but it's equal to his eye talent.
We will get more into reaction from his teammates about what he's been like so far, Caleb Williams. But first, let's dip into our special guest this week, our interview with General Manager Ryan Poles on all topics, including his own growth as an executive in the NFL and then the overall outlook for the 2024 Bears. All right, so please tell me you had a lot of me time and family time over the last month.
I did. It was a good time. Did a little bit of everything. Had a golf trip with some buddies. Went to Lake Tahoe with the family for kind of a relaxing time on the lake. and then finished up in Cooperstown watching my son play baseball. So
No, that's pretty cool.
yeah, it was great.
You
Great
love
time.
that experience?
Absolutely.
The adrenaline pumping through this building's got to be off the charts right
Yeah.
now. How excited are you? How excited is everyone? Because it feels like something special is brewing here.
Yeah, everyone's excited. I'm excited. And I think it has a lot to do with the people that we have in the building. We have a great group. The locker room culture is outstanding. Everyone enjoys being around each other and working with each other. But the cool thing is, as excited as we are, we know that we have to have a daily approach, and our work has to be top notch for us to really define who we're going to be in 2024. We know that we have to really take it day by day, just continue to get better, and everyone's excited to continue this climb that we're on.
What have you done to personally get yourself ready? Because I know you're a reader.
Yeah.
You go and find people that might be able to give you that little edge,
Right.
Mentally, spiritually, whatever. What have you been doing?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the books I read called Clear Thinking by Shane Parrish talks about put your board of directors together. People that are real mentors to you, or even fictional ones where, that you've read about, and you start to ask yourself, what would they do in those situations? So I've been able to read a lot. One of the books I actually gave it to my entire front office was Wisdom of a Bullfrog by Admiral McRaven. And it just goes through different, points of leadership. And I'm excited we're going to get together and kind of go through the book, but just continuing to sharpen the blade of being the best leader that I can possibly be. And that means enhancing, the staff around us as well.
Continuing education
Yes.
in all walks of life. And that staff really has been very important to you.
Yes.
They've done a great job. Pieces move all the time in the NFL.
Yep.
That process of just finding the right mix, how does that work for you?
Yeah, it's been great. We are very intentional with developing our staff. I was proud to promote our first 4 scouting assistants that came into the Chicago Bears with me. So we're getting better every single year, and we work really well together.
So how would you describe the negotiations with the first round picks?
Yeah.
They're slotted and everything, but there's always little language and stuff, right?
Yeah, every contract has its challenges. There's always requests for different things. That's just part of the process. But everything was pleasant and positive, and again, I'm happy we can get everyone here for our first practice on Saturday.
What have you experienced organizationally with Kevin Warren as
Yeah.
team president and CEO, giving you the resources that you need,
Mm-hmm.
the ear, the consultation? What has he meant to you, and what has it led to make decisions for you?
I can't say enough about the relationship that we have. I think it's rare for someone to say their boss is also a mentor for them. And then he provides so many different resources, and that's just not financially, but that's also people. If we need help answering a question or making a decision, he is very good at supplying people that have wisdom, that have done that before in any industry, that can shine light on some of the things that they learned. And for me, to have that extra wisdom is incredible. It's comforting. And it's also challenging because he has a high standard of how he wants to operate, and I want to be able to meet that.
There's a trickle down with that then
Yes,
too, right?
absolutely.
For you, your high standards. It's the best roster you have in 3 years. That's without question.
Mm-hmm.
What will make this the best team in 3 years?
Yeah, I think this training camp is going to be big for that. It's the chemistry that we're going to build. It's the support that we're going to have for our young players. We're going to count on our young players playing a lot and helping us win games. So that relationship between the young part of our roster and the veteran leadership is going to be critical. And I expect those vets to help pull along our young players through the ups and downs that naturally come from a season in the NFL. But that's going to start in training camp, and I'm excited to see that chemistry start to build.
Every division has its own storyline. I think the AFC North and the NFC North, you can make a case, the toughest, physical. It's going to be a challenge for everybody in the division, obviously. How do you look at it, and will the toughest and healthiest teams in the end survive?
Yeah, I think that's the case pretty much every year.
Yeah.
The health part's the one that keeps me up at night, just because it's
Fingers
the
crossed.
uncontrollable for the most part, even though our performance staff does an amazing job, getting ahead of a lot of things and making sure we're one of the healthier teams in the league. But yeah, our division is getting better, and we love that competition. We feel like, everyone's getting, better and better and better. But I like where our roster is at, And the beautiful thing about this season is we get a nice, start to this to the season with, non-divisional opponents. And by the time we get to the end of the season, it's going to be game on for that. So we're excited for the challenge.
I keep saying week 11, the season begins.
Yep.
What do you feel the strengths of the team are, and where would you like to tweak?
Obviously, I love our defense. We have a lot of experience there, guys that can impact games. We have some young players that continue to get better. I'm looking forward to Tyreek Stevenson playing a good season this year, along with Brisker and the rest of the leadership there. Love our receiver room. It's competitive top to bottom, with some outstanding players that have been productive and consistently productive for a long time. So we're excited about the strengths of our roster for sure.
There is absolutely no right way or schedule plan for a quarterback to develop. Everyone develops on their own timeline and whatnot. How does that impact your personal expectations for Caleb Williams this year?
Yeah, well, the beautiful thing is I think we've surrounded him with a lot of, good players that are really going to help him create the mindset that he doesn't have to do everything on his own. And I think that's comforting for a young quarterback to be able to hand the ball off, to be able to get quick passes out and let guys do the work for him, especially on days when it's just not clicking. So we're going to lean on that. We're going to lean on the fact that his mental makeup and the resilience that he has is going to allow him to deal with ups and downs of the season that naturally are going to come. Again, surrounding him with talent, support, 360 from inside the building with our support, in the building all the way to the field on game day. So
I keep talking about fine completions because you got all these weapons.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be open.
Yeah.
I know it's not as simple as that, though, right?
Yep.
Right. But it should make for a quick transition. This idea that people are talking about, fans in particular, there's only one ball and a lot of weapons, and you got to feed everybody. How do you view that?
Yeah, that's why, we talk about it in our scouting department a lot. That's why the makeup and character of the players on your team is so critical, because there's a selflessness that has to come along when you have a lot of talented players in one football, because there's going to be a day that's for you and there's going to be a day that might be a little quiet. But are you okay with the team's success more so than your own success? So that's why we really lean on the character of the players that we have on our roster.
And the big thing is about matchups too. If there's a matchup you like, that person's going to get the football.
Yes.
Right. Offensive line. We can talk about weapons all we want, but if the offensive line doesn't stay healthy or the rhythm and the continuity isn't there, then that's an issue. You've done a great job adding depth and competition with veterans, not just undrafted free agents for this particular year. What was your mindset, and how do you stack it up right now?
Yeah, we really took the approach to enhance our versatility, because we know it's really hard to go through a whole season with 5 starters and no changes. It's very rare to do that. So guys that can play different sides of the ball, different positions is critical for us. And I think we accomplished that. So I'm looking forward to, the battle at center. And I'm looking forward to our young players continue to step up, like Braxton and Darnell.
There's a lot of discussion out there as well about Nate Davis. Didn't stay completely healthy last year. Didn't see much of him in the offseason program, even though he was here. How is he mentally, physically? Is he ready to roll?
Yeah, he's in a good place. And that's the thing with O-line. We talk about dependability a lot, and that's important to us. He had a challenging first year here, some ups and downs, things he can control, some things he couldn't control. So we're looking for him to take that next step and play to his ability. Because if that's the case, we're going to be really good up front.
And then I got to talk about Tevin Jenkins, because when he's on, he's a vicious animal in there.
Right.
Real great regard. Yeah. How big is this year for him?
It's a huge year.
Yeah.
And we had some really good one-on-one conversations at the end of this off season. And it's encouraging just the growth that he's shown since we've been together. I love what he's been doing. Again, I'll go back to the word dependability and durability. Those are the two things he has improved on, and we just would like to see him continue to do that. So it's a big year for him. I expect big things for Tevin. The sky's the limit for him and what he has in his body. And like I said, I love how much he's matured since the time we've been together.
It's crazy when you take a step back as an observer and analyst and see how you built this football team, because there's no right way of doing that either. Yes, you have to have a quarterback to be a perennial contender and whatnot, but the defense is the 6th highest paid defense in the league. And boy, it's the back 7 is buzzing. Montez Sweat, young guys on the inside. and a whole bunch of others that are going to be in the mix on the other edge. How close is this defense to being special?
Yep.
And do you need this defense to kind of win the day early this season, just to give Caleb and the offense their time to get it going?
Yeah, a lot of times when we talk about supporting a young quarterback, it seems like it's just the O-line and the receivers, but oftentimes it can be the defense that's going to give you more opportunities or hold up on one of those rough days that are bound to happen. And that's also special teams as well. So I believe this defense is capable of big things this year. Obviously, you can't just bring last year's production and throw it into the next year in 2024. So I look forward to these guys working in training camp and building that chemistry. I love the communication and chemistry that they showed in the offseason. So I hope that continues and they can do something special in terms of turnover stops that are going to help us win football games.
I'm big on risers. So who are your risers? The guys are ready to take either from year 1 to year 2 or year 2 to year 3. That's the big, and frankly, year 3 to year 4. Right. Yeah. There's some guys we got circled.
Yeah, defensively, the two that stand out for me, Brisker. Yeah. I'm excited to see what he does this year. I think he's capable of big things. Tyreek Stevenson, you saw him grow through the season. Kind of got baptized early, but I love the resilience that he had to keep fighting, and then started creating turnovers and making plays on the back half of the season. I'm looking forward to Roshan and Herbert making plays in a bigger role, as well as Tyler Scott as a kind of the fourth receiver that I think he did some really nice things last year and is capable of making plays for us this upcoming season.
I got to circle back to defense and Javon Dexter because this is the what if he right? Because then that line takes on a whole different look.
Yeah, and I tell you, he's taking
and Zach Pickens.
Yep, he took care of his body this offseason. He looks lean and mean, and had a good OTA. So we'll see when he puts the pads on. But excited about Dex.
Year 3, Matt Eberflus. What do you envision this training camp looking like? Will it look different?
I think the standards are always going to be the standards for Matt, but I like what he's done with the staff. I like the way that he's approached, our players and our process. He's taken a lot of feedback from the players to make sure that, yes, they're going through the grind of camp to kind of build those calluses, but we're also making sure we're taking care of their bodies so that they can be healthy and play at a very high level. And that's a fine line for a coach to kind of balance between those. But I love how he's been able to take player feedback, coach feedback, and continue to tweak the process so that it's as perfect as can be.
How have you approached Hard Knocks?
Really, nothing's changed. It's the same approach as we always have had. They've been outstanding to work with. I think it's an opportunity to really show what this organization is all about, how we treat people, how we develop people, and how we go about our business. I think we're very professional. We got great people, and I hope that highlights it.
And lastly, leadership is big in this building. It's discussed all the time. We can circle the leaders we think that are the case on the roster, but do you get a sense that there are others that will emerge this year? Obviously, your quarterback, that has to grow organically, but I'm hearing that he's already taking steps in that direction, for example. Yeah,
Caleb's done a great job with the leadership part. I think it's a delicate balance of, sometimes you try to do too much or you go too quiet. I think he's found a sweet spot early on, and I hope he continues to do that and lead by his actions, and when it's time, vocally as well. But I really lean on some of the stable leaders that have been doing it for a long time. I think Cole Kmetz, he's done it by action. Now you're starting to hear him more and really get up front of this team and almost make it his team as well. So with him and Tremaine and TJ, we have a really strong leadership group.
And throwing Mercedes Lewis back on the roster.
Yep.
The wonder that is Mercedes Lewis.
Exactly.
That's not a small addition.
Right.
Correct? I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah. The wisdom that he's had, and he got up in front of the team a few times last year and really helped, move us in a really positive direction.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Tom, you got any takeaways from that interview with Ryan Poles?
You know what I love about Ryan Poles the most is it's not a prepared interview. He goes back to his memory bank, whether it's something that he's experienced this offseason or where he's going to looking forward, some of the books that he's read and how he's learned from that, and some of the suggestive reading he's brought to his staff. He's a really clear speaking, knows exactly what he's going to say before the question's ever asked of him. And to me, that's super encouraging because, we've seen his big picture of success, how he's been really successful picking up the defensive backfield, taking advantage of some of the free agents, Montez Sweat, TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, and things like that. But I'm super encouraged that Ryan Poles knows exactly what he's looking at. He knows what he has in mind to improve this football team, and he understands where this thing should be going with the leadership of Matt Eberflus and the rest of the coaching staff.
And he's got an honest appraisal. He's very transparent,
Correct.
to be honest. And I always enjoy talking to Ryan. It's just a regular conversation with a football guy. It's easy to talk to him, is my point. It's just an easy conversation. So I really appreciate his time all the time.
I admire that about both you guys because it's not something that he's got to be prepared for. It's something that he generally enjoys the conversation and talking about team football and the Bears as an organization and the benefits of having a guy like Kevin Warren on board and how he can maybe expedite a scenario if he needs to learn from somebody or they have an instant that needs to be solved. And I think when everybody's pulling in the right direction, it's only a matter of time before you should be successful.
And everybody is pulling on that same rope. When it's time to tackle some game day deals, then go with the grocer who's been a part of Chicago since 1899. Jewel Osco, the official grocery store of the Chicago Bears. All right, let's get into some of the thoughts on Caleb Williams. It's going to be a daily topic, as has been the case for Bears quarterbacks for a very long time. But let's pick it up with DeMarcus Walker. He is a man who speaks his mind. He explains himself in a chunk of interview on Monday at Halas Hall with the media, where his personality is really coming through now in this second year, and he sifts through, Tom, what he heard about Caleb Williams, and then who really Caleb Williams is now that he's had a chance in the offseason and the early days of camp to get to know him. Also talks about his former Titans teammate, safety Kevin Byard. Here's DeMarcus Walker.
I don't like how the media made him, and not you guys, I'm talking about the LA guys, they're just the mainstream LA media and all this. I don't like how they made him this type of prima donna type things and all that stuff when you got to know this kid and you sit down and talk with him in the cafeteria and all that stuff. It's just like, no, you just sit down and get to know him, So, good kid, man. I can't wait to see what he does. Special arm talent. And this offense, got so many good weapons around him. It's the sky's the limit for that kid. I took a month off for the first time. I usually only take 2 weeks off. And my first question I got is, what are we gonna do at quarterback? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was so serious. Like February 1st when I started, and it's just like, so then you had the comparisons and everything, and with anybody, and I'll wait to get to know you myself. You know what I'm saying? When we sit down and talk, and I use my discernment to see, if your spirit real or not. So,
what was the biggest misconception about him?
See, Caleb's confident, and I feel like people can use that as cockiness, and that's where I feel like people are wrong at. You want anyone to be confident in what they do. In your job, you got to be confident. You want a confident boyfriend, you want a confident girlfriend, you want a confident husband, you want a confident wife. So, I feel like some people can misconcept that.
Marcus, you mentioned KB's leadership a minute ago. What's the thing that you respect most about the way he acts this whole thing?
I feel like, with him and Brisker back there, it's just, they've been there before, and me being with KB with Tennessee, I already knew what type of, leadership he was going to bring and everything. Now it's just, us leaders just, hey, bro, this is yours too. You can speak up, you can do whatever you want, be yourself.
We always hear you jawing back and forth with the offense. Did you kind of get the reaction today that you've been looking for over the past couple of years when they started jawing back a little bit?
Yes, I did. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because they're the little brother, you know what I'm saying? And then you picking on them, you want them to swing back, you know what I'm saying? So, I do that. And that's the thing about my leadership. I try to get to know the offense and special teams as well. You know what I'm saying? I'm a team leader, not just a leader. You know what I'm saying? To, being able to, get to those moments, being their brother, you know what I'm saying? And also being there, being a bully, knowing how to, get to know them. And when you're doing all that stuff, when things hit the fan, you know what type of person you're going to get out of them. You know what I'm saying? So bullying works.
On the football field, right?
I know you and I love watching his activity on the field. Tom, he's the guy who roars on the field, and he explained why in all of that.
You know what? Listen, man, I love the personality of DeMarcus Walker. That's why last year when he got injured early in camp, I was so disappointed because I like to see his mouth activity because I think it's a positive for everybody on that football team. I think it's a chance for allow the defense to gain confidence, but it's also a good positive instigator. And I'm not saying he's there talking trash across the line from Braxton Jones or Darnell Wright or anybody like that. He's up there trying to do the encouraging tap dance, a lot like Steve McMichael. And I think it was really positive for all the years that I practiced against Steve McMichael in the trash that he talked, because it was positive for the whole team. And that's kind of, you know, without knowing DeMarcus Walker, that's kind of what I see and what I really like out of him. And we talked about his expandable ability to move up and down the line of scrimmage, that, hey, he's there ready to sit there and talk the same type of encouraging, instigating trash in full pads as he is in no pads. So,
well, it's like you and me, you know, in the booth. You know, you instigate
talk trash and I just take it.
And you instigate me. You instigate me, and you keep me focused. You fire up the competitive juices. You know you do. Not like the old days when you'd smack me on the rear end right before kickoff unaware, and it would sting for the first quarter. That was not fun.
Well, now you're focused.
I am focused, and I probably should stay focused because
yes.
I haven't really considered the notion that you could go back to that at any time. You haven't done it in a long time, but I got to be ready. Tevin Jenkins, he's a guy we talk about a lot. Unlimited potential, unlimited abilities, size, his demeanor on the field. Can he stay healthy in 2024? It's going to mean significance not only for the Bears but individually for him and his professional career, his contract, which he admitted at the podium on Monday that after discussing things with the organization and Ryan Poles and that staff, that they're going to table any contract stuff until after the bye week. And that's fair, right? Because can you stay healthy? Can the offensive line benefit from you being on the field as much as possible? So that's something that he talked about. But also what impressed him here about Caleb Williams.
Pocket presence. You know, we have a 3 and a 5 and 3 and a 5 on the other side, and they both rush outside. He understands, like, oh wow, he could just step up because all they're just cover 2 drops, and it's like, oh wow, I can step up 20 yards, just easy. I mean, he's just understanding where he's like sliding in the pocket, like seeing the pressures and everything. So I'm being really impressed by that.
What's been your impression of DeAndre Swift though? Like, he seems like he has a little extra juice, another gear that maybe the other backs might not have.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by Swift right now, and it's a lot of hard-nosed ball he does. It's very impactful what he's going to do for our offense, and he's very quick, speedy, and he can run over you if he wanted to. So that's a lot of things that he brings to the offense. I'm very excited about it.
And Ryan mentioned it. It's a big year for Tevin Jenkins. Mighty big year.
Yeah, it's amazing, too. You hear from DeMarcus Walker. You hear from Tevin Jenkins. Matt can't help but talk about it every day. It seems like everybody's question is first about Caleb.
Yeah.
Then they get into their own personal business. Tevin, he has an unlimited upside. And like you said, if he stays healthy, they should be in contract negotiations by mid-year. At the early stages of training camp, when I'm super encouraged by the offensive line being together, and that includes Nate Davis, Tevin Jenkins, Braxton, or Larry Borum, and Darnell Wright on the right side. If this group can stay healthy and stay together throughout training camp and then go into the beginning of the regular season, that could probably be the biggest asset of the offense when you're talking about the wide receiver position and the running back position that they have brought aboard, because the key to the success is going to be this offensive line staying together. And we saw what Tevin was capable of. He's got the right attitude. He's got a tough mentality. He's got the versatility to play really anywhere on the inside. And it wouldn't surprise me if he could play right tackle if he had to in an emergency situation. So Tevin has a tremendous upside. It's just about being on the field, being available for 17 games for every offensive play throughout the game.
Yep, and he is investing a lot of time and effort and finances into his body and eating right, and that's always something that a young player has to learn how to do. Not everybody comes into the league built like a Tom Thayer, working in the weight room.
Hey, listen, man,
massive.
I was on a fast food budget. I was not spending money on my body. I was saving money on my body.
Did you really eat a lot of fast food?
Awful.
Yeah,
Awful.
really. As like
Jeff,
throughout your whole career, I know they didn't have food at Hallis Hall, but
unfortunately,
no
yes.
kidding.
Because we didn't have the luxury of the meals that they're offering these players. My last year when I went and played for the Miami Dolphins, and they did offer us food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, then I got to see what it was like. However, when I was not being offered that type of food during the day, I was maybe eating fast food twice before I went to sleep when I left the building. I might go to a fast food place on the way home and then watch tape for a couple hours, and then have fast food before I went to sleep.
What would be a typical purchase at a fast food joint on your way home?
I mean,
be honest.
Okay, if I would go to Burger King, for example, I used to have a standard meal. I had 2 double Whoppers with cheese, no tomatoes, 2 double cheeseburgers, a large fry.
Get out of here.
Something to drink. No, that's what I.
Well,
and there's times I ate more than that. Embarrassingly enough.
Well, this is a dumb question because I'm not sure. Maybe there were there protein shakes available back in those days? Could you make your own? It was purchasable powder on the aisles?
Purchasable powder.
Yes,
but
not
it wasn't.
You're not bringing your own skim milk to the old Hallis Hall.
Medlin on the podcast last week, who I love him dearly, and when I would walk into the facility early in the morning, if there wasn't pots of coffee on our 2-burner coffee pot holder, I would just blow up on him. And Tony was just so awesome that it rarely happened that coffee wasn't ready. And, as soon as that first pot was drunk, the next one was being made.
It is crazy to think. I mean, did you eat breakfast? Or is that fast food also? So you just show up for practice and go?
I would wake up, drive to the facility, drink coffee until practice started, go through the practice, go through meetings, and then get fast food on the way home.
Oh, that's crazy. Now, at training camp, they fed you at training camp. We know that.
Yeah.
They fed you at training camp.
But listen, I harbor no ill will. That's just the way life was back then. It's the same thing of the horror stories that the generations before us used to tell us. So just part of it. And the unfortunate part for me is I love fast food.
Yeah.
And so that was probably the worst enemy.
Tastes like Miller time. Chicago, celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Our last bit of sound was from the head coach, Matt Eberflus, who meets the media some 4 times a week during the training camp portion of this season. Also discussing the progress and the growth of Caleb Williams. He will get questions about Caleb Williams every single day of this 2024 season. He also touched on Jalen Johnson and his ability to take away the football. Okay, Matt's very optimistic. Matt's full of energy right now. He's feeling a very comfortable level at the podium these days with the media. He's got a plan and he's executing the plan. But his observations of Caleb Williams, and a lot of it has to do with just as in mind view is the pocket presence. I talked to Matt after practice myself, and he goes, "What'd you see?" I said, "Well, when he steps up against pressure, like Tevin Jenkins indicated." His eyes are downfield. He's stepping up in the pocket. He's letting stuff go by him. He's not panicking at all. The eyes are up.
That's the key ingredient is understand where your rushers can come from. Look where your vulnerabilities are in the type of protection you call. And I think that Matt talks about and stuff, listening to the verbiage come out of the mouth of Caleb Williams tells you a lot about if he's getting it or not. If there's hesitancy in the terminology coming out of his voice, that he's thinking more about the terminology than he is knowing exactly what he's doing. And I think that they're really encouraged that he's got a certain clarity about saying the terminology in the huddle and understanding what it means to everybody. And like I said earlier in the show, the thing that encourages me most about Caleb is not necessarily his arm talent, but it's his eye talent. And I think the smarter that he gets in the system, the more repetitive he comes in calling these plays out, the better the better understanding and the more he's going to benefit all the assets they have on offense. That's all the receivers and everybody who can touch the football.
You know, one of the underrated things I heard so far this week came from Tevin Jenkins when they asked him, if you could compare where you're at as an offense. And he said, we're ahead of the curve versus last season, even with a new offensive coordinator, a new offensive staff, and a 22-year-old rookie quarterback. Put that in perspective.
I agree. It's just because of you understand the mentality of a quarterback that's had some great experiences in college, and he understands how to use his arm, how to use his eyes, and how to understand the protection, and then how to predict how to use ball placement to put it in the right position. I don't know if it was today or yesterday he threw a pass that went from right to left to Rome Odunze, and he understood the coverage and the defensive back was in a trailing position, and he put it in a perfect position where Rome was going to run underneath it, and there was no chance for the defender in a trailing position to have any effect on the completion. And it was super encouraging to me when he sees the coverage where they are and now where I have to have my ball placement. So when you see things like this out of Caleb, and then you think of the weapons they have, if he gets the proper amount of protection, the offensive firepower in the passing game is limitless.
Yeah, that would have been. I remember the play. It was in team, and it would have been a catch and run touchdown. Which I also think there's going to be many catch and run touchdowns by this group. I'm not saying we're talking 70-yard bombs, but I'm talking DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze's speed, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett. All these guys have catch and run ability to bust tackles and then run away from guys. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on versus a throw to the end zone. How many end zone touchdowns is he going to throw versus, hey, taking a 10-yard pass and putting it in the end zone, or a 4-yard pass and running it into the end zone?
Well, that's what I was going to say, is the mentality that these running backs have. If they catch a pass behind the line of scrimmage or they catch an outlet that's 10 yards downfield, they take it to the end zone.
Yes.
And you see that conditioning process of the running backs, that every one of these guys, that they're taking every single one of these catches the distance. And then, like Ditka used to say, what your mind believes your body can achieve. And that's kind of what you do, is you kind of get into that frame of mind that these guys understand that getting into the end zone is the important part of the catches that they're making.
Right. And it may be a reflection of the running back coach, Chad Morton, who's running nonstop, sprinting to drills, trying to beat everybody in his wake. And so everybody from Ian Wheeler, the rookie undrafted out of Howard University, who shows some really good speed, Khalil, Roshan, Travis Homer, DeAndre, they're touching the ball. They're going all the way to the end zone. Draw up a great game plan of savings with Jewel Osco for your digital coupons. Download the app for a fully loaded lineup of hot deals on produce, salty snacks, tasty beverages, and more. Vizzy Hard Seltzer, flavors for every vibe. Celebrate responsibly. Molson Coors Beverage Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A couple of other notes. Montez Sweat ranked number 82 in the NFL's top 100. They're rolling that out. First time in his career on the heels of a 12.5 sack. Record-setting performance, given that he's the only player in NFL history to lead 2 teams in sacks in the same season. That's still crazy. I love watching Montez Sweat play. I enjoy listening to speak about this football team and where eyes are going in terms of leadership, because he's been given great responsibility as the highest paid player on the team for this year and the largest contract in Bears history, for that matter, until further notice. So a lot comes with that, but he's embracing it. Tommy. He's embracing it.
The thing that excites me most about Montez Sweat is the fact that when he sat up on stage with us the night of the draft.
Oh, he's great.
And you really get a chance to sit up there and look at the player out of pads. And, we see him at the combine. He impresses us all with the 40. We kind of get to know of Montez Sweat from a distance. And then you sit up there and you realize what a big man this guy is. And I kind of, for me as an ex-offensive lineman, when I start thinking about his performance and the attitude of his size, he's a big guy, man. And he's got straights. I think he belongs higher than number 82, but I don't put much stock in.
No, I know.
All that.
I know. I hesitate to even
anyways.
throw that out there, but
I know you did.
Jalen Johnson's going to be in there too, I'd imagine.
Well,
DJ Moore, will DJ Moore be in the top 100?
DJ Moore should be in there.
Yeah.
Look at the courage that he's put on display. Look at what he's did on a new football team. Look what he's did with early relationship with a new quarterback and a new offense. If he's not in it, show me, 100 or 99 guys that are better than him.
All right, Big Tom, that's going to wrap us up today. We'll have another one this week. We'll have a player interview as well as we break down the 2024 training camp. We're excited to get fans out here. That begins on, the rollout of this podcast on Tuesday. Yes, on Tuesday. Yeah. So, yes, the fans will be out here, and they will be excited to be here, expecting sellouts for all of those. It's a cap number. You only can have so many here, but the fans are always going to come when opportunity knocks, and opportunity knocks this year for the Chicago Bears. No question.
Will you be signing autographs?
I don't believe so. I've been known to sign a few pictures here and there, but they're not here to see you or me.
Have you been on Hard Knocks yet?
I have no idea. There's microphones everywhere, so make sure you better be aware, Tom. Cameras could be all over a former Super Bowl winning Bears guard
they won't be,
who played
they
9 years for the Chicago Bears. And has done, 2 careers with the Chicago Bears. You will be on Hard Knocks, 100%.
I will not shy away from the Hard Knocks.
You'll be on your scooter driving around. They'll have cameras. You'll have Liv Schreiber in his unique voice, who voices the NFL films Hard Knocks. There goes Super Bowl winning guard Tom Thayer. The game has beaten him up to the point he smartly has reverted to a scooter to get him around training camp. There he is, stopping to sign autographs with Bears fans who love the 85 crew. How's that go? I already wrote the script for it.
That was excellent.
Hey, real quick, we got Hall of Fame, then we'll go. Hall of Fame, that's coming. We're hoping to get Devin Hester on the podcast as well before he heads to Canton. I know he's super excited. Those around him have told me he's just beyond thrilled, as anyone who is in that position would be. And then, of course, Steve McMichael and all of his friends, his family, his close friends and former teammates are really, they're all going in at once. Part of you is going into the Hall of Fame too. When you talk about Steve McMichael and the practices and your friendship, and I mean, is this hitting you in any particular way? I know it will in Canton. You're not going to necessarily be there for the ceremony, I don't believe, but you're going to be in Canton the weekend of the induction of Steve McMichael. What does this?
Yeah, but I'm going to be at Steve's house.
Okay,
when
but
they
what
do the presentation?
What has been going through your mind? Just your own personal feelings, not about his feelings. What's yours?
I know that he's not doing well, so that makes me sad, and the human part of it.
Yeah.
But I have such the ultimate respect for Steve McMichael, the person, the football player, his accomplishments, and the deserving of the Hall of Fame honors that he's going to get. And I hope and I pray that if there's one last second of happiness, of joy, of just the whole sense of accomplishment by Steve McMichael, it comes when he sees the presentation take place. And that's what I want to happen for Steve McMichael. I want him to have that instant of enjoyment for the poor guy and everything he's going through.
Well, we'll have to hear how that all goes from your perspective on that day and one of our podcasts following the induction of the latest, the growing list of Hall of Famers, the most in the NFL and NFL history from this organization, the Chicago Bears. All right, that's going to wrap us up. For Tom Thayer, and special thanks to General Manager Ryan Poles, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe, will you? Now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.